Last year, Kent Ashmead received a frantic call on his landline.
I got the call 11 o'clock in the morning, approximately. It was from my grandson.
The person, he thought was his grandson, said he'd been arrested and needed help.
And he said, I can only make this one call. And he said, oh, here comes the bailiff. And so the bailiff got on the phone and says hello. And
it was pretty intricate. He talked to several people that day, badge numbers, so sergeant and everything. Yeah, it was quite complicated, and it just so happened that a bailiff lived nearby and could pick up the money and get him out of the remand center.
Wow, so multiple people calling you, but the first call you thought was from your grandson. Why did you think it was your grandson, Kent?
The voice.
The voice, and when my grandson, when the grandson phoned, it was his voice. I'm familiar with him. And he said, hi, Papa. And that's, my grandson's called me that. So I 100%, that's who he was.
Yeah. And he believed he was in trouble because it was his voice, and called him Papa and said, don't tell Mom, and I don't have my phone.
So specifically said, don't contact you, Nicole. Like, don't get yourself involved.
Very specific, don't tell Mom, because I don't want her to get worried. So he was feeling my dad was being a good grandparent and didn't say anything, just paid the money.
So you think that some kind of technology was involved to take the voice of your son, some kind of AI, something?
Absolutely. It was because it happened again almost 2 years later. And at that time, I thwarted it because I happened to walk in and they were on the phone with my mom this time. And I heard the voice, and it's my son's voice. It's a recording, it's AI, I'm not sure, but he says, hi, it's me. Is Papa there? Called my mom by the name they call her. It was his voice. So it's some type of technology that they're able to mimic the voice.
Kent, let me ask you, was there any point in any of those calls that you thought this might be a scam?
On my way to the bank, I thought this could be a scam.
Then the bank did ask him, can I ask you what this money's for?
Oh, they checked in.
Said, yeah, and he said, I didn't want to say anything to embarrass his grandson. So he said, it's for furniture. And took it out.
So they were trying to protect you, and even
they
in that...
were trying to protect him, yeah. But he had all these badge numbers and talked to 3 different people and just really felt it was real, and it sounded so real.
Kent, how did you feel when you found out this was all a scam?
I thought, how could I fall for this? I'm more cautious than this. I'm a critic of some sort, and I just and after I got back, and they actually the amount of money had to be, they told me to be counted, and in a white envelope, and the password was blue, and 8-digit number to verify this was a bailiff coming to the door. And
so someone physically came to your door. Someone came and knocked on your door.
Yeah,
to get that money.
Yes. They had made instructions because this bailiff apparently lived close by my dad, so he could get it to faster, so that my son could get out of jail faster.
Wow.
The worst part was after it was done and Dad gave him the money, Dad thanked him for his service.
Right. I think people would be listening to your story and say, if my grandkid was in that situation, I would do the same thing. So I empathize with that for sure.
And truthfully, he was so relieved when he found out it was a scam and that my son wasn't in jail and that there wasn't something nefarious. He was just so happy that he was okay, because he said, I would have done anything for him, and they're banking on that. So, right.
And they when he left when I was talking to the bailiff out the door, I was on the phone to the other crook, and so he said, your grandson, once the money's verified by the sheriff out there, they'll okay for his release. Sure enough, that time I phoned my grandson on his cell phone, and he said, hello. And I said, where are you? And he said, I'm at work. That I knew I had it.
Then he knew.
Right.
Yeah.
Nicole, what have you learned from this? Because obviously, you know, your father's gone through it, your mother faced it later on.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
have you learned from this situation?
You know, I think for me, the biggest thing is that I was happy that he told me. I think that people are ashamed, and people feel embarrassed, and so they don't talk to their family, don't tell them that this has happened. Just pretend like it didn't happen. Don't talk to their friends about it. They're ashamed. But the truth is, that's how it gets worse and keeps going because nobody talks about it. So, you know, that's, as a family, you know, I think it's important now we have more communication about this and how it happens and the key elements. Don't tell mom or dad. Don't, you know, whatever. They're in some type of peril that only you can help them with. And I don't have my phone. The second time the phone had been taken, the other time, you know, whatever, they always somehow you can't phone them because immediately if you called them, you would know what was happening.
So, Kent, what would you say to other seniors that are scared to share what happened to them?
Your family will not disown you. I think they'll appreciate, glad you told us, and they'd pass it on. And I think the word just gets out that one tells another. If you hide it, it's not going to go away.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and I think that every family should be talking about this because the scammers are getting more and more sophisticated, and they're coming after, you know, the people that we love the most.
Everybody the family have a password. That
Safe word.
If this, so you just ask the crook, just say, what's your pet's name? You know, and if the person can't answer, that's a clue.
Thank you both for your time today. Really appreciate talking to you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.